Learning English podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've gotten some interesting stuff from you guys, and it looks like you want to dig into why some people just don't seem to have those close friends.
Yeah.
It's a question a lot of you are grappling with. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack some of the reasons behind this, see if we can offer some insights, and maybe even some paths forward.
It's definitely something that's not talked about enough.
Right.
It's a sensitive topic.
It is.
And as we go through these sources, I think we'll find there are a lot of different reasons, and none of them mean there's something wrong with you. It's about understanding what might be going on.
Exactly. So let's just jump right in. One of the first things that pops up again and again in what you sent us is this idea of a social anxiety. And it's not just, being a little shy, is it?
Right.
It's something more.
Yeah, it can really get in the way of making those connections and keeping them going.
Exactly. Like, how does that actually play out, in someone's life? What does that look like?
Well, the thing about social anxiety is it's often this constant chatter in your head. You're overthinking every conversation.
Yeah.
You're so worried about being judged. Like, did I say something weird?
Yeah.
Did they not like what I said? Do they not like me?
You're constantly second-guessing yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And then that fear makes you want to avoid social situations altogether.
Yeah.
And that's when it really becomes a problem.
Because then you're not giving yourself the chance to practice, to get better at it.
Exactly. And then the more you avoid these situations, the scarier they seem, and it just becomes this vicious cycle.
Yeah, like anything, you don't use it, you lose it. It's almost like you're not working that muscle.
Totally. And the cool thing is, when we look at the research on social anxiety, we see that a lot of it comes from these specific patterns in our thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, negative beliefs about ourselves or about how social interactions are supposed to go. Mm-hmm. And the good news is we can actually change these patterns. It takes time, but it's definitely possible.
That's great. It's not just something you're stuck with.
Exactly.
So moving on from that, another biggie that kept popping up in the material was this idea of just not putting in the effort. Like you're just not, quote unquote, putting yourself out there.
Right.
So how does that look, on a day-to-day basis?
Well, think of it like this. Friendships, they're kind of like a garden.
Okay.
You're not going to get any flowers if you don't plant any seeds.
Right.
And in this case, those seeds are like putting yourself out there. It's initiating contact with people, saying hi, asking someone how their day is going, and then the watering. That's like keeping up with those connections.
Okay.
Checking in on people.
So if your day-to-day life is just work, home, maybe Netflix on the couch, then yeah, you're not really putting yourself out there.
Right. You're not creating those opportunities to meet people and connect with them. And it doesn't mean you have to suddenly become this super extroverted social butterfly.
Right.
It's just about making those little efforts to be present where those connections can happen.
Yeah, like instead of always eating lunch at your desk, maybe try going to the break room or going out to a cafe and just seeing who else is there.
Exactly. Just those little things can make a big difference.
Now let's get into something a little deeper, a little bit more emotional, which is trust issues. I mean, this came up a lot, and I totally get it. If you've been hurt before, betrayed in the past, it makes sense that opening yourself up to new friendships, it's scary.
It's so true. And it's interesting, because what we see is that these past experiences, these relational wounds, they can really impact our ability to form those secure attachments in the present.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like this fear of vulnerability that can become almost like a subconscious defense mechanism.
Yeah, keeping people at arm's length.
Exactly. Even if those new connections are potentially really good for us. And the thing is, trust is just so fundamental to friendship, to that closeness.
You got to be able to be vulnerable.
You do.
To really let someone in.
You do. And building that trust, it's a process. It takes time. Especially if you've been hurt before, it can take even longer.
Yeah.
And it requires, a willingness to go through those feelings of vulnerability, which can be really tough.
It's so interesting, isn't it, how healing from past hurts. It's almost intertwined with being able to trust new people.
Absolutely.
It's like they're connected.
Yeah.
So sometimes, it's not even about these emotional barriers. It's more about the actual practical skills of socializing. How to have a conversation, how to read social cues. And we often think those are just things you're born with, but they're not, are they?
Not at all. Social skills, they're learned, just like anything else. And some people have an easier time with them than others.
Sure.
And it's important to remember that, not everyone's on the same level. And so if you're struggling with things like, how to keep a conversation going, how to listen actively, how to read those nonverbal cues, like eye contact, body language, tone of voice.
All that stuff.
Yeah, all of that, it can create friction in your social interactions. You might be doing things that are unintentionally pushing people away.
Like what, for example?
Well, like interrupting people a lot.
Okay, yeah.
It might not seem like a big deal, but it can make others feel like you're not really listening to them.
Right.
Like you're not interested in what they have to say.
They feel like you're not valuing them.
Exactly. And that's not necessarily the intention, but it can have that effect.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, these are skills, so you can improve them. It just takes awareness and practice.
That's good. It's not hopeless.
No, not at all. There are lots of resources out there to help you develop these skills. You can practice things like active listening, summarizing what the other person said to make sure you understand.
Okay.
You can be more mindful of how much you're contributing to the conversation. There are all sorts of techniques.
It makes you think about emotional intelligence.
It does, yeah.
That ability to read other people and how you come across to them.
Exactly.
It's a muscle you can work.
It is.
Now, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
Which is that for so many of us, life is just so busy.
It is.
We're just constantly overwhelmed.
Totally.
Work, there's family, there's errands, there's, keeping the house clean, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you're like, I have zero time for anything else, let alone building friendships.
Yeah, it's a really common feeling these days, and it's understandable. But, if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it often comes down to priorities.
Okay.
Your schedule might be packed, but where do friendships fall on your list of priorities?
Yeah.
Because even if you only have small pockets of time, you can still use them to connect with people. Send a quick text.
Yeah.
Call a friend on your commute. It doesn't have to be this huge time commitment.
It's about those small moments of connection, those touch points, as you said earlier, that keep those bonds strong.
Exactly. It's not about having these big, elaborate outings every week.
Right.
It's about consistency.
It's about showing up consistently, even in small ways.
Exactly.
And that leads us to something really important, which is, not having those close friends. It's not just about feeling lonely.
Right.
It actually impacts our overall well-being in some pretty profound ways.
There's so much research on this now, and it's really fascinating.
What does the research say?
Well, basically, chronic loneliness, it's been linked to all sorts of negative health outcomes. It can increase your stress hormones, make you more anxious, and it increases your risk of developing depression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's not just mental health. I remember reading a study that found a link between loneliness and a weaker immune system.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're actually more susceptible to getting sick.
Exactly. And even scarier, there's some evidence that long-term social isolation can increase the risk of heart problems.
Wow.
So it's not just about feeling sad or isolated. It actually has a real impact on our physical health.
So we're literally hardwired for connection.
We are. It's essential to our well-being.
So given all this, all these different factors that contribute to people not having those close friendships, what can we do about it? Where do we even begin?
Well, the good news is there are things we can do. It's not hopeless.
Good.
And I think one of the most important things is just being open to new people.
So being proactive, like you were saying earlier, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And it's a mindset shift. It's about being willing to say yes to social invitations, even if you feel a little nervous.
Okay.
It's about seeking out environments where you're likely to meet people who share your interests.
So like joining a club, volunteering, even online communities, right?
Exactly. Those are all great ways to meet people. And, sometimes the hardest part is just initiating that first conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But even just a simple hello can be a great starting point.
It can be terrifying, that first hello.
It can, but it's so worth it. And once you've made that initial connection, the next step is being a good listener.
Oh, that's huge, isn't it?
It's so important. It's the foundation of any strong relationship.
So what does it really mean to be a good listener?
Well, it's more than just hearing the words someone is saying.
Okay.
It's about being truly present in the conversation, asking clarifying questions, showing genuine interest in what the other person has to say.
Yeah.
Remembering those little details they share and bringing them up later. It's about making the other person feel heard and valued.
Not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly.
So you're really focused on them and what they're sharing with you.
You are.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. And then, of course, the last piece of the puzzle is maintaining those friendships.
Right, because it's not a one-time thing.
No, it's an ongoing process. Friendships need to be nurtured.
like any relationship, you got to put in the work.
You do. So that means checking with your friends regularly.
Okay.
Just seeing how they're doing, offering support when they're going through a tough time, celebrating their successes.
Yeah.
And it's also about reciprocity, being willing to give as much to the friendship as you take.
That's a two-way street.
It is. It's about mutual care and effort.
So it sounds like, while there are a lot of different reasons why someone might not have those close friendships, there are also a lot of things they can do to change that.
Absolutely. It's about understanding what's going on and then taking action.
So for you listening, as you've been listening to us talk about all this, what's resonating most with you? What really stands out? And think about this. What's one small step you could take? Maybe not from anything we talked about, but just from your own experience and from thinking about this. What's one small step you could take to start building those connections?
It's always a good time to start.
It is.
It's never too late.
It's never too late.